Hi there, I'm Jyoti Marbin coming down from the Bay Area. I'm a pediatrician, and in our clinics in Oakland, we've been seeing ICE sitting in parking lots of clinics. And in my clinic, we've had a drop-in number of parents bringing their kids in for their visits. We've been offering more telehealth visits to allay some of the concerns that families are sharing with us about coming in. But it's really, we saw this with the first Trump administration, where understandably, families are so afraid to come in, and so kids with chronic conditions don't get treated until they get real sick. And then by the time they do come in, the impact is so much just more difficult on them. And so we're starting to see that chilling effect again in our clinic.
Many towns across the U.S., many of the towns where you're coming from, they're preparing to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And in the town that I work, Kingston, New York, every year for so many years, there's a nice shamrock race, and then there's a parade where all the politicians, local, and sometimes they come, the ones who represent us in Congress come to an area to march. And then at the end, there's a big gathering. And I'm really happy for that because I join them, when I'm there on St. Patrick's Day. But also, we, the Hispanics, have the Cinco de Mayo festival. And sadly, this year has been canceled. I mean, the organizers, which I know, decided that it was too risky to bring all the community and, have a raid or something, and that's something that they would not take easily as organizers. So there's no Cinco de Mayo in Kingston, New York, but for my radio show, which I do, I encourage the organizers to reconsider, because if they're taking away that part of our cultural heritage, I think they're taking something of us. So, thank you.
My name is Salvador, also known as Sal Sandoval, and I'm a physician, retired under spousal pressure. But I just want to make some short observations, and I think it'll kind of point us to things we can do. As pointed out before, through the health department where I was working my last 5 years of a long career, we did see drop-offs of people wanting to come in to get treatment for tuberculosis, for example, because they're feared that they're going to be arrested, and then the drop-off on immunizations. But it's a mixed bag of what we're seeing now, and I think we're kind of gathering information so that really we can make our efforts count. My wife and I have been involved in efforts for helping the homeless too. And we were at one event, and this one lady said, well, I'm so glad that Trump's president now, because now there'll be more housing for us. Okay. And then there was a vigil for the homeless at the winter vigil, at the solstice, where the most people die out on the streets. And my wife made this young man that had been homeless take his MAGA hat off. And then he gave his testimony, and it was really touching information. I say that because we're gonna, what we have to do is it's a battle for the hearts and minds of people. And I admit this, it's a mixed bag, because there are people doing things and people just starting to mobilize. My daughter works in the hospital, and she let me know that the administrator said that they had to cooperate with ICE if they came in. And as a health officer, I just sent him an information saying basically, this is what Rob Bonta, the Attorney General of California, says. You don't have to cooperate with ICE. They have to have a warrant with the name of the person that they're going for, and then also that they don't have to talk to anybody. So that got out to the clinics in the county, and it got out to the medical society, and the administrator indirectly, so that, I didn't challenge him, but the thing is he needs to know the facts. So we need to take advantage of where we're situated. We're not Florida. Florida has a different situation, but I think in California we have to use what we have.
Hi, I'm Lori Cantillo, and I'm with Humane Borders, and we're in Tucson. If you don't know about our organization, put water stations around the desert of southern Arizona. There are about 50 currently. What we're seeing is, yes, it's also very quiet in terms of asylum seekers, and we share your concerns expressed earlier that as we close off legal pathways to asylum, more people will make that very difficult and dangerous decision to cross in the desert, and we also fear that there will be more deaths as a result. In terms of military presence, the only oddity that we've seen just last week is a special ops team from DHS operating near Sassabee. What's concerning is their plain clothes and unmarked vehicles, so they look like vigilantes. And if they follow humanitarians, that's a kind of frightening thing. So we are concerned about that. Otherwise, a little bit more activity from Border Patrol vehicles, but no sign of military. Also of concern is in recent months, vigilantes and paramilitary groups feel emboldened. And I think they are getting a little nervous because the propaganda campaign is increasing. We're seeing not so much the people carrying the weapons, but people with cameras and microphones and live streaming, and they go out and they harass humanitarians on water drops and along the border. We also have experienced increased vandalism of our water stations. Now it's to the point of 1 to 2 per week throughout mostly the Tucson area, although there has been some vandalism here at Oregon Pipe as well. And as many of you know, our stations are permitted, so this is a crime. And we work with local law enforcement to report this and hold these guys accountable.
I just wanted to add another more sort of Debbie Downer dimension to observation, both in our own community and communities that we've traveled through, is that as we look at the circumstance that we now face, it's made all the more difficult by virtue of the fact that the efforts that have been implemented through DOGE have cut the knees off of the sources of support, funding and support that historically have funded and aided many of the programs on the international side that had been providing medical assistance and food assistance and housing assistance. The same is surely true, and we've seen it already occur in our own local community. Cutbacks in federal contracts are impacting the availability of emergency food assistance. The HUD funding for emergency shelter and emergency housing efforts it has all been held in abeyance, and those shelters and those food banks that historically have been available and accessible to provide support to these populations are under assault and under stress. Refugee services have been eliminated in our own community, and I imagine in many of your communities as well, which has again eliminated access to another layer of supports that historically had been available to folks. Legal supports for the legal assistance organizations that historically have provided assistance to these populations has been cut, if not eliminated altogether. And so I say that only to try to encourage us as we are thinking and needing to think about where do we go from here and what is possible. And what is the reality that we are obligated now to confront? It's one that no longer actually allows us to count on the resources for support and assistance that historically have been available to us.
I'm Sue Ann. I'm from outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. The last time this guy was in office, Pennsylvania had the highest rate of detention in the country. And so we have seen in Philadelphia and the collar counties a rise in detentions, a rise in raids in workplaces, even in a restaurant in Philadelphia that was owned by Puerto Rican Trump supporters. They went in and raided that restaurant as well, and they really had to scream that they were American citizens. The difference this time I'm in Montgomery County now, and it's a blue bubble. However, they're actually targeting that more than the other counties, maybe because it's a blue bubble. And the fear is everywhere. As people have mentioned, people aren't going to the health clinic because the ICE are not going into the health clinic, but they're standing on the corner. They're very visible in their jackets. They're going into restaurants and asking for lists of employees and their documentation. And we hadn't seen that last time. So that's what's going on in my neck of the woods.
Hola, my name is Marta Tepepa. I come also from the Hudson Valley, originally from Mexico, via New York. I teach in Danbury, Connecticut, which is a very Latinx, has a lot of Latinx people in it. And I'm here to tell you what's going on with ICE. ICE is now showing up in immigrant restaurants, Brazilian restaurants. They're showing up in bodegas, and they're showing up even at our university. They park in the parking lot of Western Connecticut University, and they just wait. You know, they're just like vultures. They're also showing up at court. They've actually just yesterday apprehended 3 persons in court that were in court. So that has escalated, because before they were just outside. Now they're going into the court and taking out people there. As a woman from Mexico that teaches anthropology, can you imagine how proud I am? Because now that DEI is frowned upon, it's basically anthropology. So we are a target. What we teach our students, many of our students are themselves undocumented. We have a task force in the university called Undocu Ally, and it's made out of Western Con faculty, staff, and students, many of them dreamers. So we are there. We do have this rapid response team that somebody was talking about. We take pictures and we take videos when people are stopped for traffic. ICE is there stopping, people in the traffic lights. So I just wanted to share you with this. Am I scared? I'm not scared. I'm here, so come get me. I am scared for my students. Many of them were in midterms, so you can imagine their anxiety. Some of them don't know what's going to happen with their families, if they're going to get a job. The uncertainty is just horrible, especially for young minds, right? So I think our job as educators is to show up for them, stand for them, and teach them those stories that this country doesn't want them to know about, right? Not just, national heroes from Mexico, but also how this is Mexican land. This is Mexican land. So, thank you.